and welcome to the Elm City Lit Fest podcast. Yay! I am Ife Michelle Gardine. I am a creator of the Elm City Lit Fest, which is a New Haven's and I think Connecticut's first celebration of literature from the African diaspora. That means when you walk in the room, you ain't switching up, like you Black. From the diaspora, African American, African, Caribbean, all that. This month, because it is June, Father's Day month, we want to hear. We invited 3 poets from male poets. We want to hear male poet voices, and in light of what is going on in our universe right now, our theme tonight is male poet voices in the pandemic racism. All right, we got a pandemic, of COVID pandemic to worry about, and then on top of our stress already from the time we got here over 400 years ago, we got the racism pandemic, which has reared its ugly head so much. So that means we shouldn't have been lax. That's all that means. So in the spirit of tonight too, I'm wearing Nina Simone earrings.
Come on, Nina.
And I have a quote from Nina Simone that's not the whole thing, but a little quote that says, "How can you be an artist and not reflect the times?" And that is also why we chose the brothers tonight that we have. And my co-host and also co-creator, co-producer of the Elm City Lit Fest is Miss Charmaine McAllister.
Hey everyone.
Miss Sha's going to introduce our guests.
Alrighty, well thank you all for tuning in and fellowshipping with us. So we have Brother Kolton Harris with us this evening. We have the legendary elder, brother, the last poet, Abiodun with us. It is an honor to have you here, sir. And then we have the phenomenal brother, Fredrick-Douglas Knowles II. How are you brothers doing?
Wonderful. I'm good and I feel very blessed to share this moment with you.
Listen, it is a blessing to have you and to share space.
Yes.
Can we have you brothers maybe do a piece or two? Can we start with maybe Kolton, if that's okay?
Well, yeah, first, thank you so much for the opportunity to share this space. And so I think my angle here is that I'm not a poet in a traditional sense. I'm a musician and an artist. And so most recently wrote a piece that has been on YouTube and is on streaming services. And I can read some of the lyrics that I wrote that reflect the times. And so you can check out the song at some other point, but it's called Another One Dead. So I'm going to pull up these lyrics. And basically the song was written in a stream of consciousness, in a flow, and the music kind of evolved and came together and we put the song out. So the hook is another one dead, and I can't seem to let this thing go. Can't breathe like those people. Another one dead, and I can't seem to let this thing go. Lord, please save my people. And the first verse goes, King Cap took the knee and got them real hype, ready to burn his jersey on the grass like. The fathers in the South weren't just picking cotton. Rest to all the souls screaming that they're forgotten. No cams on the premises to catch their lynching. Maybe some will say those are what we were gifted. Still, my point is that we're all being sifted through the guise of the liberals and Kaepernisms. Let's not forget the roots of the very system. It's designed to divide and dehumanize. Take the knee and you're bound to be scrutinized. That's the poison that killed Floyd, and I'm terrified. And then it goes there from the loop, and then we kind of expanded it. So that's what I would like to offer to the space.
Thank you. Oh my God. And I meant to give a little bit about the bio of each of the brothers here. So Kolton Harris is an artist, musician, writer, educator, art director, and creative leader from Groton, Connecticut. And he's currently the executive director of Writer's Block, Inc., a performing arts nonprofit that gives youth a platform to advocate for social justice using the arts as a medium for community conversation, which is really key and important, especially in the state of Disconnecticut, okay? We gotta let people know that we are, Black people in Connecticut are connected. And then we have Fredrick-Douglas Knowles, which with a name like Frederick Douglass, bro, you gotta have some words and wisdom.
Yeah, but let me just say, it took a long time to really live up to this, fill these shoes of this name. So I took a little while. So I'm still trying to fulfill those shoes. But with that name, I tell you, yeah, actually, I'm gonna share a poem from my book Black Rose City. It's about growing up in Norwich, Connecticut. Norwich is considered the rose of New England and so forth. So Black Rose City is, about us. And this poem I want to share, it's titled Natural Born, just to remind folks of who we are. Asians want to be Europeans, Europeans want to be Africans, and Africans just want to be free. Hispanics are called Latinos. Latinos don't like gringos, and gringos are euphemism for a lightly tinted Negro. Now, the Cape Verdeans despise the Portuguese, and the Portuguese diss the Cape Verde. But since they're both located off the coast of Africa, you tell me. If you speak with the Greek on the philosophies of Socrates, what would you do if you knew Zeus descended from Timbuktu? Sicilians are really North African civilians, exiled by the millions when the pharaohs revoked their hospitality and tried to kill them. Or the Chinese are the ones with the Huns, and the Kitakatai, the Black Mongols, stomped out of Persia, desecrating Asia underneath the sun. Mexicans are really light-skinned Nubian brethren, hosts of the Olmec statues before their lands became commercial. Eskimos, the frozen Negroes, year after year escorted Vikings to the western frontier. And I'm really amused with the Jews since they bounced out of Ethiopia and got confused because they believed Judaism started out white and shunned the birthplace of humanity out of spite. The men of India like to pretend to be God-sent, but culturally enslaved beautiful Banda women. So what's really going on? Alpha to Omega, Africa will remain strong. Deceivers will lie, claiming textbooks aren't wrong. But whether you're Latin, Asian, Indo-European, you're still natural born.
Thank you for that. Wow. And keep it in the spirit of artists, like she said, artists as activists. I'll say your bio briefly. Fredrick Douglass is an educator and activist, fervent in achieving community augmentation through literary arts. He is an inaugural poet laureate for the city of Hartford, Connecticut. His works have been selected as a finalist for the New England Association of Teachers of English Poet of the Year Award, as well as a nominee for Pushcart Prize. He is a recipient of the Nutmeg Poetry Award and the 2020 Connecticut of the Arts Fellow in Artist Excellence for Poetry, creative fiction. Fredrick Douglass is the author of Black Rose City and an associate professor of English at Three Rivers Community College in Norwich, Connecticut. Again, another part of the state. Like,
that's pretty far. That's a whole different avenue.
So we passed New London and so forth, we're right next door to New London, and history really talks a lot about New London being the whaling town, whaling city and so forth. And, Norwich was a textile town, of course, and so forth. And like the industrial area dried up and everybody left. Like our claim to fame is Lincoln stayed in our Regan Hotel, in his era and so forth. And so we are just very small, microcosmic, but very powerful voice. So thank you.
But brother, what you said was, I appreciate what you had to say. And of course, reminds me of one of the first books that I had to read if I really wanted to be a revolutionary. And the book was Stolen Legacies. Are you familiar with that book?
No, but I'm about to write it down, brother, right now.
Yeah, it's very important.
Gotcha.
The subtitle of Stolen Leg is written by, I believe his name is George James.
George
And
James.
yes, and the book actually, the subtitle of it, The Greeks Are Not the Fathers of Greek Philosophy.
I like it.
Because see, everything that we are dealing with that is supposed to be Western civilization is stolen from Kemet.
Absolutely.
Because when Alexander went into Europe, into Egypt, he brought everything out of the libraries back to Aristotle, who was his teacher. And Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates all died at the hands of their people because those three guys were trying to introduce civilization to some heathens.
Yeah.
And the heathens didn't understand, and they killed them. They all died a terrible death.
Yeah, I think it was Aristotle that I was reading that he was embarrassed once he had studied in Kemet and so forth, that he was embarrassed about the ways peoples was carrying about. Like he realized how far behind they actually were.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The fact is that, and when anytime you understand your history, like you do, and you outlined it in your piece, then you know your future. That's the only, everything is a circle, brother. We are in the circle. Right now it's a scary-go-round. But the real deal is that it's gonna go around.
Yes.
And it ain't gonna change. It's not gonna go square, it ain't gonna go left, it's gonna go around. So what was will be. And if we're, those of us who are poets, we're like the gatekeepers for those that want to know. Because our job is to go deep into the understanding of now so that we'll understand then and what's coming. And so we got to be, our main companions must be the truth.
Yes.
I mean, that's the bottom line. I appreciate your work, brother. And I'm gonna tell you something. Freddie is upstairs giving you an applause because you're dealing with some stuff that he can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Your namesake, you ain't failed him. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. All you're supposed to do, brother, in your moment in time is always improve on your craft in every way you can.
Yes.
I am much older. I've been doing this for a long time. I got a whole bunch of accolades, and I'm trying to get better every day. I ain't stopping. My mother's alive and well, and she told me about a few months ago, she says, every day, son, I try to learn something new. Hey, all bets are off. Ain't nothing else to be said.
Yes, sir.
So, brother, I appreciate you. You got the energy, and we need every ounce of blackness that we can muster up at this time, because war has been declared,
Yes.
and they're not playing. We are in the period where an empire is about to crumble. This is the end of an empire.
Yeah.
And we had a song back in the days, back in the 60s, we say, who shall survive America? Very few niggas, no crackers at all. And that's still the truth. And when we say crackers, we're talking about that group of people who are deformed white people. And there's some white people who are not deformed, and they can be in the family. They can sit down, have collard greens and cornbread, and eat chicken with us, and everything will be mad cool. They can even do the electric slide without missing a beat. But you got some white folks that ain't down. You got the Trumpers. Mm-hmm. And Trump is the last vestige of white silliness. And it's silly. It's not deep. It's silly. Because he's a child. And we need to recognize our position. I had a talk with Fannie Lou Hamer some years ago, and Fannie Lou Hamer was one of our great sisters who did some work in Mississippi, born in rural Mississippi. And she came to Shaw University where I went to school, and she spoke, and I was just entranced by this woman. She looked like everybody's grandmother with a sweet potato pie face and smile. Yes, beautiful sister. And I had a chance to talk to Fannie Lou Hamer by myself in the morning because I get up real early, and she was up early, and we met in the lobby of the Union at Shaw University at Raleigh. And I said, well, what happened when them freedom fighters came down to try to help get the voting rights for black folks in Mississippi. She says, well, we take them in. I have them in my house. And I said, I guess you did a lot of cooking. She said, I didn't know cooking. My husband did the cooking. I don't cook. I'm an organizer. And then I said, well, I said, does the Klan bother you? She said, oh yeah, they come by and they shoot at the house. They shoot at our house and try to scare everybody. And they come back by, I have my gun, I shoot back. And they wouldn't bother me. I said, what? I mean, this is Fannie. See, Fannie Lou wasn't Martin Luther King. She had a gun. She wasn't joking. So when she told me all that, I said, man, we got to exterminate these white folks. They are just dangerous. She said, son, they are just children. They brought us here to raise them.
Yes.
There's been nothing ever said to me that makes more sense. We have to understand our position. Trump is a joke. We are for real. We have got to take our reality and manifest all the things we need to do. The thing that we're missing is that necessary piece of unity. Efforts like this, when Ife does this kind of podcast, these are efforts for us to unify and recognize the strength of us in numbers. And we can change anything. We don't need a whole lot of numbers, but we need some numbers that make sense. And we can get some things done. I want to thank you for meeting you today, Brother Fredrick-Douglas.
Thank you, Abiodun. I mean, you actually, it goes unspoken, unsaid that, you know, the energy that I've been blessed with is, you know, you direct mentor, you know, all y'all, you know, the last poets, Gil Scott Haran, so forth, Mary Baraka, all y'all, man. And so just with that energy, because I remember coming across all y'all's work for the first time and just be like, oh, okay. And then, of course, it, you know, it was the cornerstone for hip hop and so forth. So when Public Enemy and KRS-One took it to the next level, when I was young, and so I was born in '73. So, you know, it was just like, wow. I mean, quoting you guys, quoting Dr. King, quoting Malcolm X in the lyrics and so forth. And so that infusion of the two, I was just like, I knew from a young kid, I wanted to be an MC, a rapper, you know. But I found a love for the language, and I found the right guidance, you know, mentors and ancestors to guide me. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
But brother, I want to thank you because the only way I stay alive is because you carry the torch.
Oh, I share.
And now we're gonna let my sister Charmaine introduce you.
Right, I didn't want to interrupt the fellowship.
I love Charmaine. Let me see that girl with that big afro. Let me see her child.
And it's,
I love it. And you don't even use the pick with the Black Power fist, huh?
I do. Right now, I couldn't find it, so I got this old school joint, the regular one. But I usually keep one with the fist. I went to Walgreens.
I love it. I love your hair, honey, but that's exciting. Do you realize that y'all killed crackers when y'all started doing when you had like that back in the day? Because they all expected sisters to go and get their hair fried and dyed and all that stuff. When you do that to your hair, you're making a bold statement.
Yes, sir. That's the plan. And sometimes you don't need to say things out loud. Sometimes presence speaks for itself.
Listen, our presence is louder than anything we could ever say.
Exactly. What's understood doesn't have to be said. But let me give you your proper introductions, Elder. Brother Abiodun is a founding member of The Last Poets, is the editor of Black Lives Have Always Mattered, author of The Beauty of the Being and the poetry collection, Branches of the Tree of Life, the collected poems of Abiodun Oyewole, 1963 to 2013, and is the co-author of On a Mission, Selected Poems and a History of the Last Poets. He received his Bachelor's of Science in Biology and BA in Communications at Shaw University. Shout out to all the HBCUs, and a Master's in Education at Columbia University, and is a Columbia Charles H. Reverson Fellow.
Jesus Christ! You know too much. Stop right there, please. Let's not get carried away. I am so glad to be a part of this because I knew when Ife was doing it was going to be right. When I first met her, she was organizing stuff. I've never known her not to be an organizer. And these are the people who do stuff that don't get the praise that they're supposed to because they're always behind the scenes. I just want to say before I do anything that she's a superstar sister that we need to always praise because she stays consistent. And that's important. So I'm happy to be here and to meet all of you folks for the first time. I'm glad that you have done a little research, you know, what I've done and all that stuff. But the fact is, the thing that makes me more excited than anything is the fact that the ancestors and the gods have allowed me to be here at this moment, at this particular time. This moment was made for me, and I was made for this moment, and you can't touch it. I think I should just open up with a piece that I did right after 9/11. It seems to be very appropriate right now. When the Twin Towers went down, people went berserk as though the world was coming to an end. The two big phallic symbols in New York City just got run into by an airplane and they just crumbled to the ground. Well, I think everybody knows that there was an implosion because planes really couldn't cause a building to go down like that. It had to be imploded. So we know there was some shaky stuff. But America is a corrupt country. It was built on false pretense. Everything else that happens is basically false. So when they put up the ticker tape on the TV that said America has declared war against terrorism, I got pissed because I'm saying, oh, America's declared war against itself? They're the biggest terrorists on the planet. And then there was a Native American brother sitting in my living room, and he's a devout Native American. Any Native American issue, he's there to champion it because he's serious about his culture. He said to all of us who were in my house at that moment, nobody cried at the 9/11 my people went through. And I'm talking about nobody really considers the pain and misfortune and genocidal attack that the Native Americans who were here first went through for this land to become what it is today. So at that moment, I wrote a piece that happened. I did the piece on Def Poetry Jam. Some of you might remember when Russell Simmons was doing Def Poetry. And thanks to Jessica Care Moore, she told me not to do it as a sound check because Russell would try to talk me out of doing it at the show. Because Russell's kind of a scary guy. He ain't no warrior. I don't want to say what I think about him on the national thing, but you know, all right. The fact is,
what are you going to do?
The fact is, Jessica said do something different as a sound check, and then when the show starts, you can do anything you want because it's live and he can't stop you. So as a sound check, we did a piece called "This Is for the People," and that's my partner, Umar Ben Hassan, the author of Niggas Are Scared of Revolution. He did that piece. It's a great piece, a great piece. So if you go online to see the last poets on Def Poetry, that's the poem you're going to hear. But when we did the show, I did the poem I'm going to do right now. And I know Ife ain't no Russell Simmons, so I can do it and she ain't going to freak. America's a terrorist, killing the natives of the land. Killing and stealing has always been America's master plan. To control the earth and everything on it, to divide and conquer is all they wanted. America is a terrorist, killing the buffalo that roam the plains. Killing and slaughtering animals was turned to a game, giving blankets contaminated with smallpox to the natives who were here. The beginning of germ warfare, the beginning of white fear, no respect for the gods, for the land, the trees, or the air we breathe. And Christianity was an excuse to bring others to their knees. America's a terrorist with a slave system in place to take away the humanity of a darker race. Put people in chains, then beat them with whips, made them give up their names. Those who survived the slave ship, America's a terrorist, chewing tobacco and eating swine, being mean and nasty to those who treated him kind. Take a pregnant black woman, cut her belly open and let the fetus fall out, stomp the baby in the ground to instill fear is what that was all about. Gang up on a black man, hang him from a tree, cut him down and set him on fire for everyone to see. America's a terrorist with a howdy-doody grin and using the Bible to keep others in check while America commits all this sin. Thou shalt not kill. That's not a part of the American dream because the killers are thrilled. They love to show on their TV screen. Romance a gun just for fun, drop a bomb just for charm. This is the American way. And all of us talk about equality, justice, and peace, spewing out of the mouths of these governmental beasts. But every time blacks tried to find a way to do for self, the American terrorists wasn't having it. and fear is all black folks felt. Rosewood was a town where blacks tried hard to thrive. White folks burned it down, and many blacks lost their lives. Now, there was a town in Oklahoma called Black Wall Street, where blacks had bank, homes, lots of money, and they stood strong on their own two feet. But now you see, the whites nearby were jealous and just couldn't stand seeing blacks do so well. So they dropped not one, but 2 bombs on the town and created a living hell. America as a terrorist, feeding off racism and grease, not caring, not sharing, but always enjoying. See the blood flow. Now, during Jack Johnson fought and beat a white boy in the ring, white mobs would kill blacks at random because a black man was boxing king. And all the wars we fought to try to win respect at home. But when the war was over, we were never treated like we belonged. And all the civil rights movements, anyway, the fact is that that piece is so appropriate right now. And I'm getting caught up in it because it's saying every single thing that we've been through, and unfortunately, we seem to be going through it again. And even to the part where I said, when I as a part of the police, where I say, and the KKK, the Michigan militia, and the police from coast to coast are the real American terrorists, and the government is the host. I mean, this poem was written like, I don't know what, whenever 9/11 happened. That was a few years ago, like maybe 12 years ago.
Almost 20, 2001.
Right. I mean, it's insane, and it's so on point now. But that's what poets do. If we see something happening right now and we clock it in a poem, it lives forever because we're continuing to go in that same circle that I mentioned earlier. And I hope that everybody can understand that we have been living, and black folks especially should know, our lives in America have been totally coveted by terror ever since we've been here. We have never been out of a terror zone. They have, and it's mainly, and it's so interesting. We are lovers. We're not militant. We're not evil people. We could have put glass in their grits. We could have put hemlock in their syrup. We do the cooking. There are a variety of ways we could have eliminated white people, but we're nice to them, and we've been nice to them. There's no reason for any of them to have any issues with us. We're the nicest people they'll ever meet. The only people that we're not nice to is each other.
Oh, Abiodun. And on that note, I have a quote from James Baldwin that says, "Our crowns have been paid for. All we have to do is put them on our heads." Right? The reason I brought these men all y'all together is because I wanted to have an intergenerational conversation of black men.
Right.
Kolton is a young man, and he's an artist, musician, multi-talented. Kolton, like you said, you were born in the 70s. And then we have the elder Abiodun. And in each generation, nothing has changed, right? We still got this fight to fight. And we can't be comfortable. We have always, these conversations have got to be coming. I'm going to ask one more time from Brother Kolton Harris up in New London to speak, to give us a little bit more of your song that you did earlier, because we were a little bit delayed on Facebook. So I want people to hear your voice. And then after he finishes, Fredrick, I would like you to speak. Yes.
Shout out to New London. I was born in London, so shout out to London, Kolton. It's good to see you again, brother.
Good to see you.
We are. I'm in New Haven, and we are. In the last show we had Hartford Slit on.
Okay.
Shout out to Hartford Slit. Sisters. Well, and Sister Nzinga, Sister T'Challa, and the brother Alfonso. They're doing their thing up in Hartford. So we are connecting, disconnect-cut, y'all.
Yeah.
We keep it connected. Go ahead, Kolton, honey.
So would it be best that you want me to do the one that I did, or would you like me to share another one?
You can whatever you feel that's in your spirit, bro.
All right, cool. So yeah, first in this piece, I just want to express gratitude again for this intergenerational connection, because I think it's so important that the generations mix and that we blend and grow together, because as we heard earlier, it's cyclical and there's so much happening. And I know that as a young man, my perspective is that I sometimes struggle with finding other Black men, especially that are artists that are speaking to the times. But I love what our uncle James Baldwin always alluded to, was this idea that sometimes the life of the artist or the poet or the writer is in isolation, but you have to step out of the chaos in order to give a accurate depiction and reflection of it. So I kind of see myself embracing this role a little bit more and not worrying too much about how much there is in terms of connectivity around, but really making sure that I'm connected within and then reaching out to where I can. So thank you again for letting me be a part of this conversation. So I'm going to read some lyrics from an unreleased song. So you'll be the first to hear this. I'm dropping a song on Friday for Juneteenth called Black Joy, and then dropping a whole album on the 4th of July called For Freedom. And this is songs. So definitely, yeah, check it out.
Oh, with the Elm City Lit Fest exclusive. Okay.
Yeah, right. So this is a little bit of a song called Together We Will Win. So the verse goes like this. The clouds are looking real dark with all the hate they sparked. Can't put the fire out, so we just scream and shout. Yeah, we yell freedom, but they don't hear us. They'd rather not be near us. Instead, they fear us. Looking at our Black skin, acting like we not kin, so they treat us like we alien, like we landed on a spaceship, a forced invasion that we had no say in. They created race, but where we running to? No destination in sight. Just to be seen as a whole being, been enslaved, check that 13. They can shoot you in that cold blood. Think of all the others we don't know of. Let's take this time just to show love. This is that evil that caused the great flood. This is a call to the allies. If you're tired of seeing Blacks die, not just in the body, but the soul, then let's make change our big goal. Teach all the children of the world that they can do more than just scroll. Past all the many atrocities. Stop feeding all the hypocrisy that says we're really a democracy. When we continue to spoon feed a white supremacist ideology that hinders us from truly being free.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Oh my goodness. Sign of the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Fredrick stepped away, but we wanted him to, oh, here we go.
He's coming back.
No, you be kind of doing things and so forth. You can get you on camera. You gotta stay like this.
Yeah.
Not like this behind the scenes. But I'm back.
Let's hear a little something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, and Kolton, by the way, that Uncle James Baldwin, that sounds like a good title for a poem or a piece, man. So you should definitely
write that down. Gotta write it down.
Write down Uncle James Baldwin. That sounds hot, man. I ain't gonna take it. Man,
all right.
That's
Uncle James.
That's right.
So I'm gonna read a piece from my new manuscript that I've been working on titled Mentors. And it's a collection of, primarily a collection of elegies, which are poems dedicated to those who passed on and transcended the ancestors. And I got the title from a very short Gwendolyn Brooks poem titled Mentors. My best allegiances are to the dead. I swear to keep the dead upon my mind, disdain for all time to be overglad. And I was working on this collection of work, and I had a title before, and I realized that most of the poems were elegies, and then I came across the Gwendolyn Brooks poem. I was like, thank you. And so this poem I'm going to read is dedicated to Henrietta Lacks. And I didn't know who she was until I was going on a conference to Baltimore. And one of my students was like, you ever heard of Henrietta Lacks? I'm like, no. He was like, you need to read this book. So I copied the book and I actually started reading it on the plane. I couldn't put it down. I read it when I was there. And what I had found out from the book, and Henrietta Lacks, real quick, if you don't know, is a Black woman from the 40s whose cells were taking without her permission, her cancer cells. They were trying to get cells to cultivate outside the body, and they kept failing. She had a very serious case of ovarian cancer that spread rapidly, and she died very quickly. Of course, being a Black woman and so forth, Black person and a woman in that time, she was maltreated, but they took her cells, and her cells have been responsible for every, when I say every major medical breakthrough, I mean every.
Still using them. They still using them.
So people, please get the book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot, and Oprah also did a movie on HBO as well. But when I read the book, I didn't realize, but I found out that Henrietta's cells came to Black women, and Norwich is mentioned in the book. We had a hospital entitled Uncle Son Thames, still there. But when you checked into Uncle Son Thames, you didn't check out, right? And so my grandmother, Nana, had died of cancer, and she died at Uncle Son Thames. So I wrote this poem where their cells may have met because they might have been there at the same time and so forth. And so this poem comes from that. And it's titled, Healer Cells Came to Norwich, from the book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. My Nana never knew Henrietta Lacks, the Black woman from Baltimore, whose cancer cells were stolen from her cervix before martyred in the name of science. My Nana never knew doctors from Johns Hopkins inserted an ingot of lead into Lax's womb to cull radiation. How petulant tumors ebbed her urine from flowing. My Nana never knew healing cells.
We got bombed.
That's all right. I like it. That was Black.
That was writer's block.
Like C-L-A-C-K. I was about to stop. Okay. My Nana never knew how doctors from Johns Hopkins inserted an ingot of lead into Lax's womb to cull radiation. How petulant tumors ebbed her urine from flowing. My Nana never knew healer cells were shipped to our city sanatorium, where she spent her last watching an angel flit over her bedside while I knelt before mine, pleading her to stay. My Nana never knew healer cells may have chatted with hers, gossiping how stone men in white coats never grew them beyond mitosis, probing their petri for a malignant antidote to catapult them into history. My Nana never knew how Henrietta's healer cells pioneered science from polio to AIDS, could float through thin air, thrive on doorknobs, atomized the Cold War, hold 17,000 patents without an arm. My Nana never knew how scientists sold healer cells, unbeknownst to her family, for billions, injected patients without consent, unethical practices hidden like the identity of a woman presumed white. My Nana never knew Henrietta's healer cells came to Norwich, carrying the legacy of a heroine. How Black women like them healed grandchildren with kisses laced in mustard gas, guised as chemo.
Damn. Okay. Between y'all, what we gonna say, Fredrick?
That last line, I want to say is that when a family member came down with breast cancer, and I was doing some research to help my sister out, and I found out through one of the books I was reading, a book, I forgot the title, but it really talked about, juicing and herbs and organic to heal yourself. And what it stated that was with chemotherapy, the origins of it is actually mustard gas from World War I. They had the leftover stockpiles of mustard gas, and they didn't have anything to do with it. So they took it, and boom, that became chemotherapy. And think about that, because people who undergo chemo, like chemo kills everything. Like it kills a lot, it kills everything. And when people pass from cancer, it's mostly complications due to cancer, because it's the chemo that's actually, for the most part, that's killing them. So when I found that out, that it really blew my mind. So I just wanted to put that out there, that that's where the chemo originated from.
Are you familiar with the fact that the Cubans use shark cartilage for cancer?
Oh, no, not at all.
Shark cartilage is the best antidote to the cancer, and the Cubans have been using it for a long time. Mtume, who was a conga player for Miles, and he also was the musical director for the TV show New York Undercover, and Louis Farrakhan, who we know was the head of the nation. They both went to Cuba to put their cancer in check, and they both are still here because the Cubans have a much better system. America is about making money, and they don't. And your living or dying is not the primary concern for them. They want to know how much money they can make. Dr. Sebi was public enemy #1 to America because he was healing people who had diabetes, cancer, HIV. He wasn't treating you. America's about treating you, because the more I treat you, the more I'll get paid. Every time you come to see me, that's the more money. So it's a capitalist system, and capitalism is a beast. And the problem with capitalism is that if that's the only system that you're depending upon, eventually it's going to be eating out of its own butt, because you got nothing else to eat. And right now, America is in that position because of the coronavirus and everything else. We need, as Black folks, we need to recognize money has never been the goal. Our existence together and what we can do as a people united is much, much worth, much, much more than money could ever buy.
And on that note, Abiodun and Kolton and Fredrick, Charmaine has a question that she's gonna present to everyone, because it's the intergenerational answers.
Intergenerational answers, I like that.
And it's a blessing to speak about intergenerational and have men here, because it's hard to have that example for our young brothers. So once again, we are grateful to have you. I want you, brother Kolton, you are up in New London, and Fredrick, you are in Norwich. How and as
I'm sorry, I'm living in Hartford right now, but I'm living in Hartford. Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta rep the beat in Black Rose City.
I can dig it, definitely. I'm with you. You got to give everybody their support. But as you two, and those are both cities very kind of distant in Connecticut. They're not near really a New Haven or Bridgeport, or it's kind of a little distance from Hartford, depending.
Yeah, about 40.
So as brothers growing up, what was your experience there? What did you face? Were there brothers like you? Did you have guidance and role models? Talk to us a little bit about growing up in these kind of segregated areas, really.
Well, yeah, so I grew up in Norwich, Connecticut, like I said, in the 80s, pretty much, born in 73. So coming of age in the 80s and the 90s. And, you know, and this was before the casinos. So the casinos are actually, like, Mohegan Sun is literally 3 minutes from my grandmother's former house. And so I remember as a kid playing in the empty lot where Mohegan Sun is now has been erected, you know. And so we didn't have.
Talk about stolen land, man.
Oh, yeah, you know.
We claimed it.
And, you know, so the history between the Mohegans and the Pequots and so forth. And the reason why Chief Mohegan had won, because they had him, the Pequots had him surrounded, because we have Fort Shantok right down the street from Mohegan Sun. And the history of Fort Shantok was one of Mohegan's last stands, because the Pequots had him surrounded. And of course, he made a deal with the Europeans and so forth. At the time, forgot what ruler it was. And so they came in, of course, and helped Mohegan out and so forth. And that's how Mohegan got out of being defeated by the Pequots. The Europeans helped them, only to bring him to Hartford later on to decapitate him, chop his head off, and take his land. You know, so anyway, I digress. So growing, I can go on and on. So growing up, and then Foxwoods is literally 15 minutes from my grandma's house, from my house. So I'm from this area, and there wasn't a lot of people of color or ethnicities or this melting pot we have now because of the casinos. It was primarily.
Though I remember when Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods were being built, and there was a lot of Black folks throughout the state, because it was like if you had a certain amount of drop of blood in you, that was, and people was, you could get a job up there. So people was like booking. Like I grew up with people that was blackety the black, cook out everything.
Uh-huh.
If things open, them jobs opened up, they was like, pew! I'm an Indian now.
Absolutely. And there were also, but it's also the Black Pequots are the Eastern Pequots, who are not federally recognized, right? And so you got that, you got the dark Pequots, you got the light Pequots, and the light Pequots running the casino for the past, since 1992, you know? And so, and you got the Eastern Pequots, the Black Pequots, they still recognize it.
So let's get back to how you grew up.
So it was a primarily white town. So I grew up in a white neighborhood, like 3-4 Black families in the neighborhood. We had the biggest neighborhood house in the entire neighborhood. They were all raised ranches, and my grandmother, she bought a duplex house with a nice piece of land, and we had a pear trees, an apple tree, a grapevine, a cherry stone tree, vegetable garden, flower garden, rose bush, all on the property and so forth. So we were actually, of course, hated because who these, niggas think they are and so forth. And in the early 80s, they put a burning cross on our front lawn when we first moved in. I have a poem titled Ashes about that. So growing up, I didn't really have a lot of Black role models. My father died when I was 6 months old. I had 9 children, him and my mother.
Wow.
And I was 6 months old when he passed and so forth. And so, I'm sitting in a classroom full of whites, and wondering what's wrong with me, And it took until later on, growing up, coming of age, to realize, the beauty in my Blackness and so on and so forth, And I've really worked since then to really stress that beauty and that Blackness, because it was very challenging growing up. I didn't like my name growing up. I thought Fred was a plain name growing up because I wasn't really fully introduced to Fredrick-Douglas. I was introduced to Dick and Jane and Judy Blume and, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing and stuff like that. I didn't like reading, actually, growing up, because, of course, I wasn't reading anything that, really I saw myself in. And so that was my experience growing up and so forth. Now, when I got to junior high and high school, because we got other neighborhoods coming in the same schools, I met more Black people and so forth, and that really helped me to really strengthen my identity. But it was very challenging growing up as a little kid.
And Brother Kolton, tell us a little bit about you growing up.
Yeah, so I was born in Boston, actually, and we moved to Connecticut when I was 6. And we moved here because my grandfather, who passed a couple years ago, organizer, activist, but also pastor, and had a church in Boston that my parents were serving at. And he planted an extension of that church here. And, my parents felt the call. He agreed and sent them here to cultivate that. So the mentors and the heroes that I had in my life were in my own household. First, with my father himself, he's a king in many regards, does a lot of great work, starting in Boston, but he's very active in New Haven and at the Community Foundation doing stuff with New Haven Healthy Start. So he's always been about community and connecting our kingdom values of kingdom Christianity with the way that we serve people. So I had him always as a model, as an example, and my grandfather as well. And so I was blessed to be in this community cultivating cocoon where I was being fed Black excellence, both from my father, my grandfather, but also my mother and all the work that she does. So with that, it gave me a strong anchor for the journey that was to come. And that was full of white supremacist ideologies, through the fact that, you know, even the internal struggles of being in schools initially that were relatively diverse and ethnic. I went to a magnet school for elementary school, but in those spaces, I was around a lot of different cultures and ethnicities and being cultivated in the arts and culture. But about the end of middle school, I had gotten into a private school around here that was 99.98% white. And I came to this crossroads where all my Black friends that I had grown up with and cultivated started calling me a sellout, and felt betrayed by me going to the school because I thought I was better than them or I was rich. And then as soon as I entered into the space, all of the white kids were rejecting me, whether overtly or it was just this undertone of tokenism, constantly feeling like I wasn't there because I was smart. My artistic achievements were dumbed down because of my quote unquote academic lacking in certain degrees. So it was a very convoluted upbringing and experience in that regard. But I lost myself first in my relationship, my personal relationship with Christ, and then exposing myself to my art and my creativity. But it was hard to do that because when I first gravitated towards theater and towards writing, I was being rejected by those communities that were predominantly white. So I wasn't cast in any of the plays. I wasn't doing work that I wanted to do, but also all my other friends that were Black were resistant to this idea that I was an artist because they just rather me fit a particular mold, because as we weren't exposed to that, so there weren't really any teachers or writers that we were reading or being exposed to. So I was fiddling around trying to find out, okay, how does this fit? Like, I still play basketball too. Like I love playing ball, but I was like, I also really like this music thing and all of that. So it's real interesting going through that process and trying to navigate where you belong, how you fit. But then I became obsessed with forging a path and ironically losing myself also in Black superhero comic books. And by the time I got to college, I was able to do an honors thesis on it because I studied English, and I was always gravitating towards narratives and stories and just becoming obsessed with Black masculinity and critical race theory. And yeah, but the whole process was always very, very difficult because I did find myself often alone in these spaces that rejected me. But then I met people or got a chance to look up to people like Fredrick, who I was being exposed to through social media and other people talking about, like, you know, guys like him that were doing poems and teaching. And it was like, whoa, this is whole other lane that opened up, that there's others that are like me and that I can continue in that legacy. So that's a little bit about my experience and the ways that I kind of dealt with it. And truthfully, the more I've grown distant from specifically my high school experience, the more I've had to fight resentment because I felt so stripped. It was a traumatic experience over the course of time, but there was a lot of joy in it as well.
I just want to say real quick that we have an extremely similar experience, because when I finished elementary school, being the only Black kid in the class, so on and so forth, and then went to junior high up to 7th and 8th grade, and I started to meet other folks that were in the town and so forth, you know, I got criticized because I spoke white, I dressed white and so forth. But then being the only Black kid in the crew and so forth, of course, like one time I had over a friend's house, mom said, you got too many people over, somebody got to go. Guess who had to go, you know? And a friend was playing with their pool in the backyard and messed with the filter, and the water started coming out. My mom said, when it's trouble, you come home. So I left to go home. And as I walked around the corner, I heard the kid tell his mom, I did it, you know? So a very, very, very similar experience, man, where you're just walking between two worlds. Wow, okay, like I can't get down. I'm too white for you guys, and I'm too Black for you guys. And then where am I? Peace to that, brother.
Yeah, I can relate to that, even growing up in New Haven. So I totally understand. I was in.
Are you about to tell the story? You want to tell the story?
No, it's not about me. It's not about me.
So, what story? Give us a synopsis.
So I was, I don't even know how I ended up here. I think there was some kind of integration thing going on. It was a Catholic school here in New Haven that's no longer here anymore, called St. Boniface. And my brother and I went, and it's funny because one of my other brothers went to school in Milford because it was a program called Project Concern that was taking inner city kids to other places. But one of my brothers went there, and me and my other brother went to this Catholic school. There was one Black person in each grade. I had an afro. It was because I'm 60, so it was like I was like 12 because it was like 7th grade. And so I'm wearing an afro or either afro puffs, and I sit in the front of the class because I'm wearing Coke bottle glasses, and the nun tells me I have to sit in the back of the room because the other kids are complaining they can't see over the cloud of my hair. So we had the old school wood flip top desk back then, and I'm sitting behind this blonde chick. She's like doing this, so I'm writing. I have to flip up my desk. So I'm writing, and she keeps flipping her hair, and then it got to be a joke. So I tell the nun, listen, can I move somewhere else? Can I sit behind somebody else, even somebody with shorter hair? She says, no, you're gonna sit there, nobody can see over your big hair, blah, blah. I tell my mother was like, listen, just go to school and do your thing. I told my grandmothers, both of them who were activists in the community, they was like, get your lessons in, don't make no trouble, but we'll work this out, we'll talk to the teachers, whatever. They took too long to make something happen. And so one day, I put my scissors on the desk because I was like, I'm gonna be ready for this chick. And so when she flipped her hair back, I took her hair in one hand, cut with the other hand, and she's screaming. She started screaming because I pulled her head back. She like, clipped it. I'm sitting up there, and I'm 12, 13 years old. You're going through. I'm sitting there with the scissors in one hand, the blonde hand in the other hand, and they are like, oh my God, this girl gotta go. So needless to say, I get kicked out of the Catholic school, which I wanted to do anyway. I get to school with the Black kids, and they're like, oh, that ain't your hair, and you think you better than us because you in the smart classes. Then I had to scrap. But anyway, that's my story.
There's this constant.
So let's get back to our man. We got Harold again from Abiodun. He got company. He got like stuff going on. And we do want to hear from the elder one more time. What are you saying, Frederick?
I'm sorry. I'm just a little excited. But so the moral of the story was you had to scrap. Right?
I had to scrap both ways. Like, right? Yeah. I cut the white girl's hair, and then I had to fight with the Black people when I got to the Black school because they didn't think it was my hair.
Yeah.
But
my hair's big as Sha's. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. And if you don't mind, I just wanted to say this real quick. I think in my experience and journey, what I've been, especially because now I work with young people and working with them on their art creativity and really trying to highlight to debunk the myth that intellectualism or words and language belong to a particular group of people. And what helped me is I had a couple professors in college who were Black educators, and they exposed me to these really rich and dynamic roots of.
And that's where you went to school?
I went to Connecticut College.
Okay.
And so I was there for 3 out of my 4 years. And yeah, my professors were just exposing me to all of these authors, writers, creators, intellects across different industries and fields. And then knowing some personally, my professors were embodying that and kind of dispelling that myth. And then now it's one of my goals and tools, because I do think that it comes from this internalized racism and the ways in which we start to feel like crabs in a bucket and start terrorizing and eating each other.
And that is precisely why I created the Elm City Lit Fest. We gotta know the Elm City Lit Fest was created to promote and expose people to the art, to the literary art of the African diaspora. Yes. Only people that walk into a room that are brown. Mm-hmm. Because there are some people, they got good intentions, but they switch it up. You know, and we can't switch it up. When you walk into a room, we are who we are. And that also speaks to the quote that I said earlier from James Baldwin: our crowns have been paid for. All we have to do is put them on. We have to know we got some damn crowns. Brother Abiodun, what you got for us? You got another piece? Because we're going to wind it up with a pledge from the Dune, too.
First of all, I just want to say that I'm very happy to be here and very proud of our young brother poets who have shared with us, as well as your partner, Mr. McAllister, who has been just a beautiful energy. My other son is here now, Evan.
Hi, Evan.
Hey, peace.
How you doing?
And he has a new dog. Her name is Goya, and she's crazy. She's a pit bull, and she's just nuts. And I got a cat, and my cat, I'm sure, is hiding someplace because she would be eaten alive. But there's a piece that I think is very appropriate for this moment in time because it centers in on us as well. And it's something that, well, I'm gonna let y'all listen and y'all can tell me afterwards. We're not well here. What are we coming to? A wild lost breed of dogs, foaming at the mouth, ready to bite anything in our paths, even ourselves. Our souls have become infected sores lying waste to a spirit that was once a bright light to show everyone the way. Who are we now that allow our children to search through their own bowels for recognition? Then laugh over the death of themselves like it was only a cartoon. How have we tattered remnants of royalty come to swallow this puke of our failures and say we've eaten well? Then watch our grandmothers raped by their grandsons, leaving pieces of their hearts along the streets for roach-like cops to raid the neighborhood and declare everyone a criminal. There is nothing sacred anymore. Flowers don't bloom here. They're made in laboratories. Love is a game you can buy hot on any street corner. Hope is a cancerous tumor festering inside our brains, and all the religious leaders of the world make up excuses for masturbating in the face of God, while governments make dying a lifestyle. This wretchedness, this wickedness, laced with cyanide dreams of another planet where no one laughs or sings or dances, but just waits like a stone for an acid rain tide to wash them away. We are not well here. We have all been bitten by the dog. They drag parts of our bodies up and down the street, growling. And the world celebrates with mandates and parades, talk shows and rap records, and morsels of our brains are rolled up into spitballs to blow in everybody's face just because we got nothing better to do. But if we survive this moment, this Holocaust, this frantic search through the devil's soul, if we survive this, what will we become? What will we become? Will we still lock the doors and walk the dog with a leash? Or will we melt into some unknown gas that will last long enough to start this whole world over again?
All right.
Between Miss Ife, Brother Kolton, and Brother Frederick, you all have had similar experiences and have not known each other. These were different generations in this. You were putting this rock in a hard place. And as Brother Kolton said, it's traumatic. It's traumatic to be excellent, but to have somebody constantly lie to you and try and strip you of your greatness and to make you seem like you aren't the light that you are. And then to have to grow older and rework that work. And it's hard not to be resentful. It's hard not to sit in anger and want to act in feeling. because those feelings, I've dealt with that as well. It's enraging to have to know. Imagine if none of that happened and your light shined from the beginning, and that there was no one trying to put a darkness over it or a door in your face. But I applaud you all because you fought against it. You saw that it was a trap, that folks are afraid of your light and your greatness and what you can accomplish. I think it's understood the power of Black people and what we can do and what we offer.
And Dune's poem just
Just like to say this, the one thing we must always keep in mind, diamonds are created because of pressure. And we're gonna get pressure. And we're Black diamonds. We really need to recognize no group of people on this planet has had to deal with the pressure that African Americans have had to deal with. Slavery existed long before the slavery that we went through existed. But those slaves could keep their name, their culture, and their religion. The slavery that we experienced was totally different. You ain't got no history, nigga. Matter of fact, your name is nigga. And I'm not playing. Forget that ooga booga stuff. You are gonna be who I want you to be. And this is what I've got designed for you. And you're gonna do that and nothing else. If you try to play them drums, I'll cut your hands off in the presence of everybody. And if you try to talk in some weird language I can't understand, I'll cut your tongue out. And they did that. They deliberately tried to recreate us. The only problem is that we are an African people. And Africa is wherever we go and whatever we do, Africa's gonna show up. And that's a fact. And a brother talked about all the connections before about the other groups. The fact is that understand what Black is. It's the source from which everything comes. We're the parents on the planet. And they know that. The biggest issue that we have with all the trumpets is that they know we're their fathers and mothers. They know that. Gone with the Wind was supposed to be the greatest movie they made in Hollywood. And what did they exercise in that? A sister played, Hattie McDaniel played Mammy. Mammy translates to mother. Even in that stupid, ridiculous movie, they made it clear, you are our mothers. She's telling Scarlett O'Hara what to do and Clark Gable what to do because they know who we are. We, like Ife said, we've got to learn who we are. What James Baldwin said, the crown is already given to you. Just put it on, wear it. And when you take on the crown, the reason why a lot of our brothers and sisters have not put the crown on because they know they got it. But the reason many of us don't put it on, Ife and the rest of y'all, we don't want the responsibility of being so damn royal. I'd rather be a nigga. That's easy. I can mess up. If I got to put on the crown, that means I'm supposed to be gallant. I'm supposed to be right. I'm supposed to be pure and true. I can't live like that.
Everybody just ain't ready. Everybody not ready. And I speak to that when there have been protests in New Haven. And there have been people, they've been marching and all that for weeks. And I haven't marched. I have done that in the past when I was younger. I applaud that because that has to happen. But I also noticed that there were people that prior to this incident happening and this climate, they were not necessarily feeling like too much anything was wrong. But now they want to be all up in the march taking selfies. And it's like, oh, now you see. But we have got to continue having hard conversations with people. That's the bottom line. Charmaine, I think you had another question, and then we're going to go into closing. Abiodun has a piece called The Pledge, and we're going to go into that, we're going to talk about that and end it.
Mm-hmm. Elder, I just wanted to ask you, because the last poets have songs that are very timely and very straight to the point. And you guys have one song called Black People, What Y'all Gonna Do? And there's a few lines I just wanted to read to you and just ask you how it's definitely relevant to now, but if you can just speak to when you all were creating this, what did you want future generations after y'all to contemplate, but also to do? So
also, I'm sorry, Sha. The last poets on May 19th, 2020 have been around for 50 years. Okay?
Yeah.
That in and of itself. Okay? A lot of these people that are performing right now, 50 years from now, okay? And will your message still be respected? You know, people may be, you know, because they don't think they're gonna be older when they talking about whatever they talking about. But I just want to recognize that May 19th, 2020, they were created on Malcolm X's birthday.
I just want to say real quick, like I was saying before, where like y'all been the lightning rod, you know what I'm saying, to our thunderstorms in this present current day and so forth, you know, and to that Baldwin quote, like, you know, for myself, Kolton, and so forth, to wear our crowns is a direct result of the 50 years that you've been paying for it. Like you've been paying for us to wear our crowns and so forth, you know.
That's why he passing the torch.
You know,
he like everybody. He still got some stuff in him though.
Yeah,
we gotta get rolling along. Charmaine, what's your?
All right. So the last few lines of the song go: will we ever love again? Will we really ever love again? Or will we just sit and rot away with the brighter tomorrows and the skag-filled, rat-cluttered, piss-stench halls of our minds? Black people, what y'all gonna do? Black people, what y'all gonna do? Will the real Black people please stand up?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. That's a classic piece. Thank you for reminding us of that. Very, very good.
Because when he wrote it, he probably was Colton's age.
The bottom line is that, you know, the fact that the thing that made, and I just want to say to all of you who have appreciated us all these years, the poetry that made the last poets famous came from the people that we wrote poetry about. That was the trick. We did not really create anything. The very first poem I ever wrote was based on what I heard on the streets of Harlem. Before the last poets were created, David Nelson had told me that he wanted to do a group, a collective, about using poets as an example of what we wanted Black folks to do. Poets usually roll solo. They don't hang out with a whole bunch of folks. A poet can be reclusive, not even hang out with the crowd, go to a party and be in the corner someplace, watching. But the reality is, David wanted to get a group of men together and one unit, even though they're three men from different walks of life, to let people, the Black folks know, I don't care what you're doing, we got a mutual enemy and he's got his foot on us, and if together we can get that foot off our necks. So that was the issue, that was the whole point of the poets existing. And my whole thing was, I wanted to get into the Black Power movement because it seemed the most sensible thing to do. Black Power was how I was raised. My mother and father were Black Power people. They didn't read Garvey, they just believed in God bless the child who's got his own. My father was from Georgia, and I lived in Queens, but I was raised damn near in Savannah, Georgia, because he turned Queens into Savannah, Georgia. I had to get up and feed chickens and rabbits before I went to school. I grew collard greens and corn and tomatoes and peppers in a big yard that my father commandeered because it was a vacant lot. Turned it into a farm, and I was a farmer. But I never went a day without wanting or needing anything because we always had what we needed. My father believed in being prepared.
And speaking to that, our strength, and even though we had common experiences growing up, Charmaine, in disconnected of the racism, my foundation was my family, right? One of my grandmothers, even though both of them actually, even though they weren't in the Panthers, they supported them. Right. And they were activists in their community. They were about getting stuff done. And New Haven was really heavily, when I was growing up, there was the Panther trials and all that.
Right.
And I'm sure with Kolton, he had that faith-based, his family, when you have your family, and Fredrick as well, multi-generational household.
Right.
We keep each other going. We have resilience as a people. Now, after one, oh, go ahead, Kolton.
I just want to quickly say, like, just to honor and lift up my grandfather. So I said he passed a couple of years ago, did a lot of organizing and was out there in the community. And when he was younger, he was actually a part of the Black Panthers. And the particular chapter and group that he was a part of, they started dabbling and started to trying to push a violent, pathway. And he rejected that. And he, to the day of his death, he has a huge scar on the back of his back because he got jumped and they attempted to kill him. So I like that's the kind of roots in the history I come from, that I was alive, like he was alive to tell me those stories and to share with me what it was like marching and part of the, but also doing the day-to-day grind and what family was like. So I just wanted to lift him up in this.
Absolutely. So we're gonna go into the pledge, Dune.
Yeah, baby.
We're gonna go into the pledge.
All right. So now, those Fredrick and the other brothers, you might not know, there are 8 words that you got to give us as a part of a call and response. The oldest form of group participation on the planet. Call and response. Your 8 words are free, grow, misery, down, true, sad, live, here. Now I saw you writing this stuff down, Brother Fredrick-Douglas, and that's almost like cheating, because your mind is supposed. Because you're supposed to remember. I'm gonna give you a line.
Wait, Kolton, you can write them down. You can write them down, and I'll
it's okay. I'm messing with you right now. It's all right.
Write them things down.
I'm gonna give the line, and all you got to do now. This is the part I have fun with the Europeans, of course. All you got to do is say your word in rhythm. You'd be surprised how they can mess us up in France and Portugal. They mess us up in a minute. So here we go. I want to be what I can be, to be proud, healthy, and
free.
That was retarded, y'all. Come on. Let's do it right. You're on rhythm. I want to be what I can be, to be proud, healthy, and free. I want to say what I know to help my brothers and sisters grow. I want to feel good about me and blame no one for my
misery.
I'll be strong, turn it around. Want to go up, not going
down.
I want to do what I can do to make all my dreams come true. Remember my past, the good and bad. I made it hard, even when it was bad. I want to share whatever my gifts. And when you're feeling low, I'll give you a lift. I want to live without fear and know that I'm blessed for being
here. Know that we're blessed for being here. Know that we're blessed for being
here. Know that we are blessed.
With that, we are going to complete this episode of thank you, Abiodun. Thank you, Fredrick. Thank you, Kolton. This intergenerational male creator conversation has been just so lifting. We have learned lessons from each generation of Black man in America. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
Right now. And we have much gratitude again. We also want to
be safe and stay blessed, everybody.
All right, you checking out? Bye.
Go ahead, Faith.
We want to say thank you to Baobab Tree Studios.
Yeah.
Kev for doing the podcast and also putting us on Facebook Live. I hope everybody got to tell their friends and share it.
And our core coordinator, Emily Mayo. Emily does all of our stuff on social media, and we appreciate her. She is cherished because that is not me and Miss Ife's ministry.
Okay. We got Emily as our backup, and we are grateful. I'm grateful for the team and my team is young and old, because I'm 60 and they young. But we appreciate it. Again, Elm City Lit Fest. It is a celebration of literary artists of the African diaspora. All the countries of the places that we are, African American, Africa, Caribbean, Brazil, South America, Europe, where we are. When you walk into a room, you see a Black person as a Black identifying artist. So we appreciate everybody's time on a Sunday evening, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. Blessings to everyone.
Okay. Love.